Good evening. Welcome to Leicester Fan TV. It's Thursday night. It's another preview show as we build up to the FA Cup. And what a way to start the season, what a way to get back into football after New Year's, missing out Norwich because the game was postponed. We now go to the FA Cup and try and reclaim our trophy that we won 12 months ago. Get your comments in, guys. Let's see who's in the house tonight, who's joining us. Remember, it's your show. Get your comments in. We've got Mike from the Voice of the Vic podcast to join us to talk all things Watford. We'll talk about the legend at Claudio Ranieri. We'll obviously talk about the 4-2 the game not long ago in the snow. But now it's 7:30. It's time for the Wave Fan Show.
Welcome to Leicester Fan TV. Are you ready for the show? Thanks to our sponsors, ADT Taxis, Everards, Pukka Pies, Pink Car Leasing, Leicester Riders, Hollogram, The Fox's Arms, Peter's Pizzeria, Hope Against Cancer, and Newby Co estate agents. We want your views, we want your comments, so join us live. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Also, get your comments in, guys. Good evening, Neil. Good evening, Maz. Good evening, Hayden the Fox. Where we got Keith Gillard. We should let Claudio win. We still owe him. Yes, we do still owe Claudio one. Hi, Tom. How are you today? Is the match on TV this weekend? Not sure it's on TV this weekend. I don't think it is. Stuff Leicester, stuff support Forest. Good evening, sir. You keep changing the name. Fair play to you. You like Tintin. Thanks, mate. Well, since you're here, I think there's only one place to start tonight, and that was on the 15th of May in 2021. And just for the Forest fan, let's see. That's for the Forest fan, eh? I do all. There we go. Had to be done. Had to be done. Got a smile. Nice to see you smile. Of course it is. We're smiling. We're Leicester. Premier League. Remember that, Forest. Remember. You'll be back one day. You'll be back. Forest, Derby won't. We ain't bothered about them. So we're joined by Mike from the Voice of the Vic. Let's get him in. Evening, Mike. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to
problem.
chatting about this game, even though we played a few weeks ago and we never win at Leicester. So, yeah, be interesting.
I remember a couple of wins when you boys beat us. The Danny Webber scored in a 1-0 victory, if I remember rightly, at our place. I remember Danny Webber scoring. Showed me age now, that is. Where would you start? I mean, your season in a whole, let's be honest. You brought in Claudio. You didn't have the greatest start. You had a very young manager who brought you up from the Championship, probably unexperienced in the Premier League. He did fantastic in the Championship. To get out on his first full season with no experience of the Championship, and we all know what a tough league that is to get out of at the best of times with a Neil Warnock or someone like that in charge. But you went for a foreign manager, a young foreign manager with no experience, and he guides you out back into the Premiership. You started okay, a couple of interesting results, beating Villa on the first day of the season 3-2, if I remember rightly. And then the wheels seemed to fall off, and sadly he left, and you brought in the legend that is Claudio Ranieri. So probably the best place to start is what has changed under the old manager and the new manager?
Well, to be honest, results-wise, not a lot. They're actually very similar in their record. I think Ranieri's actually lost more than Xisco Munoz did. But you can see what Ranieri's trying to do. We just don't have the defence to do it. That's the big sticking problem that we've got this season, is a defence. We've had rotten luck with injuries. Francisco Sierralta was one of our best defenders, I thought, in the Championship last season. And look, I get there's a big step up from the Champ to the Prem. I'm not deluded enough to not think there is. But we were so looking forward to seeing what he could do in the Premier League. He gets his chance and he gets injured on international break for Chile, comes back, plays 1 or 2 games. There's another international break. He gets injured again for Chile. And then he's only just recently come back. I think he's played the last 2 or the last 1. I'm not sure. But yeah, he hopefully now he can sort of build on those performances. We have recently brought in, as recently as the last hour, brought in a centre back from Udinese, Samia. He's a Brazilian centre back, and we brought in a Hassani Karam from Nice, who's a left back as well. So it's clear that the boards are ready to bring in reinforcements in defence. If we can shore up that defence, attacking wise, we set to stay up. But that's the big problem. As obvious as it sounds, it's the defence are absolutely killing us so far this season.
I mean, you talk about the defence, but when you look at your attacking lineup, when you've got Sa, who's been injured, very unlucky, he looked quality in the Premiership last time round. This time round, he's still doing fantastic. You signed Emilio Dennis, another one not really heard much about, but what a signing, and he caused us all sorts of hazard in the game at the King Power. Josh King, another proven Premier League for me at this level, can do a job. Probably not good enough to be in the top half, but if you put him in a team around, the mid-table fighting, he will do you a job and get you goals. Hernandez, another one who looks a little talented little player, but as you say, if you concede in goals in this division, it's hard. There's one player we talk about. There's 2 actually. One who started in goal at the beginning of the season, the cycling GK legend, love him to bits. And then now you've got Bachmann. Is it in goal for you, the Australian? Do you feel was the change need to bring Bachmann into the goal? Because obviously you had Foster for the majority of the Championship, I think, last year, and then Bachmann played the last few, I think, because Ben Foster got injured, was it?
Yeah, so that's how Bachmann got his break in the squad. Was Ben Foster picked up an injury last season as well. And then Bachmann got his chance. And to be fair to Bachmann last season, yes, it was in the Championship, but he did a solid, he was solid performances week in, week out. And we were really excited. We'd only seen him in the FA Cup the season we went down in 2019-20, which we blew a 3-0 lead at home to Tranmere and drew 3-3 in the end. So it wasn't the best sort of debut that we'd seen from him. And he'd been out on loan to Kilmarnock and they got European football. He's had various other loan spells in his career before he's come to Watford, but he never really got his break. So when he got his break in the Championship last season, he was brilliant, and we was like, let's give him a chance in the Premier League. A bit like Xisco Munoz, let's give him a chance. He's got us promoted. As you say, we got off to a winning start against Aston Villa. Then there were mistakes coming through. He, as you say, plays for Austria, went to the Euros, had a fairly comfortable Euros, I would say, and he played in. There was England's last warm-up game before the Euros was against Austria, I think, at the Riverside, and he had a solid game there. Kept Harry Kane relatively quiet, and I think we only won 1 or 2-0, but he had a solid game. Tottenham game this season, I think that was before an international break. He was at fault for the goal. We lost 1-0 at Tottenham Stadium. He then went off to international break and made a number of mistakes for Austria. And it was clear that his head was gone a little bit. We saw glimpses that he could lose his head a bit last season. A game which sticks out for us Watford fans for, terrible reasons is the rivals in the form of Luton Town. We lost 1-0 away from home to them, and Bachmann was slightly at fault for giving away the penalty, and he completely lost his head before the penalty was taken, and you just knew that he wasn't going to save it because he just lost his head and he tried being too clever. We've seen a couple of instances of that so far this season. The only reason he's got back into the squad is because, as you said, Foster is injured. I don't expect Foster to be in goal this week either, because I think he's still a couple of weeks away from full fitness, which is interesting because Bachmann probably would have been the FA Cup goalkeeper this season, and Foster would have been the Premier League goalkeeper. So it'd be interesting to see. It'd be interesting to see what happens with him. But yeah, there was a big debate about whether it should be Foster or Bachmann this season, and I mean, I'm firmly within the Ben Foster camp. You mentioned there he does a cycling GK. That's actually a separate story with Watford fans. He's been reprimanded massively on social media for his cycling GK antics, and a lot of people don't agree with it or think it's right. And like I say, that's a whole different story for a whole different day. But I personally think his performances so far this season, Foster's kept us in games at times, and I'll welcome him with open arms when he's back from injury. So it's going to be interesting to see if Ranieri brings him straight in when he's fit again, or whether he sticks with Bachmann. I'd be very surprised if he stuck with Bachmann.
I mean, looking at your results, like you say, you've been hit and miss. You've had the opening day of the season. You got a draw against Newcastle. Then Ranieri got, I think, was first game. You got hammered 5-0 versus Liverpool.
Yeah.
And then you picked up the most, a result away at Goodison, a 5-2 win. I mean, you must have been thinking then we've turned a corner. Or Everton are poor. We all know Everton not having a great season this year. But to go there and score 5, I mean, that takes some doing it. Any team to go and score 5 goals in one game.
Well, absolutely, yeah. And I think what made it better was the fact that we got absolutely trounced 5-0 the week before, and it was Ranieri's first game, baptism of fire up against Liverpool, who ridiculously good. Salah was on fire that game. So we just wanted to see a reaction. Obviously, Ranieri's not going to work wonders. His first game, his second game, his third game. He needs time to work with the players. So for us to go 1-0 down, and we actually conceded in the Everton game earlier than we did in the Liverpool game. So I was thinking, Christ, here we go again. But yeah, I mean, I don't think we've ever won at Goodison Park either, so that was even better. But yeah, after that performance, we thought, bloody hell, this could be a turning point. We could see what happens under Ranieri now. But then, typical Watford up and down, we then went and lost 1-0 at home to Southampton, which is a game we should be winning. You mentioned the 1-1 draw against Newcastle there. We were very, very lucky to draw that in the end. So, I mean, we had a goal disallowed for VAR in the last minute, but other than that, Newcastle battered us and Ben Foster kept us in the game. So another result really which swung in our favour just. But yeah, it wasn't quite to be. We then had a brilliant result against Manchester United. That was possibly down to more Manchester United's poor performance, but although I would say that was probably one of the best performances, first half performances I've seen from a Watford side for a very long time. But obviously, when a club is in disarray like they were under Ollie at the time, that will help massively. And then after that, again, we go and lose and we struggle, and we've not won since. So it's frustrating, and like I say, you can see what Ranieri is trying to do with the team. You can see how he's trying to set us up and how we're trying to implement the style of play, but the defence is just all over the shop. And obviously we've had the COVID outbreak as well, and players out of form. William Troost-Ekong really finding it tough to play in the Premier League, and it's just not going well for us at all.
Before we talk about this weekend, obviously we'll talk about the 4-2 game in the snow in the second half, where Bachmann was trying to get the game called off, but as it was Vardy was saying, the pitch is that good, there was no way. And I think we've seen from previous years, Leicester know that. When we played Ipswich a long time ago in the Championship, we went there and we were 3-0 down at half time, and the pitch was no fit to play football in it. But at that point, they were never going to call it off, even though Sven was saying it's dangerous. You're not going to call it off live on Sky, and the results are always going to go the way of the winning team. You talk about that defender at the time, and I will go back to the game at the KP where the ball was a straight long ball over the top, and he decides to leave it for James Maddison standing 10 yards in the penalty area all on his lonesome, and you're thinking, as the commentator said, in the Premier League, unless you're really 100% sure you head that ball away, you can't take the risk, because players compared to the Championship level will be poaching. And obviously Madders get that first goal, and obviously you get back in it with a penalty, but to then have to come back from a goal down so early on, it's always difficult. And I think it then showed your frailties at the back in that game. And we as Leicester fans then looked at it and thought, hang on a minute, they've conceded already here, and they struggle at the back. Obviously, you get the penalty, 1-1. You boys are fantastic. You can see the confidence lift at that point, by the way. You boys probably were pushing for the goal. And then we get that little bit of the look and a brilliant bit of play from Maddison to chip Vardy in behind. Batman comes running out. There's the angle's not in there for the goal, but this is Jamie Vardy, and the form he's in this season, finish those off. Obviously, then before half-time, Vardy gets his second with another fantastic finish and a good header at the near post to flick it over Batman to the back. And we're thinking game over, done and dusted at half-time. Then the blizzard hit. And all hell broke loose for the second half. The ball didn't want to pass. You boys then nick a goal on the break, and fair play. You closed us down. Timmy loses the ball, and I think it was Dennis Ranning, Chips Michaels put in the net. Obviously, VAR checks in, gives a goal. And lines are cleared for another 5 minutes. Game's stopped while the lines are clear because obviously the pitch is building up by that point. And then literally after that, it was just end to end like a basketball game for me. Until we get that little bit of luck where Cassania challenges on the halfway line really bravely, wins the ball, and then breaks to Barnes, who plays it. So Thomas, who plays it Barnes, and Barnes gets the ball for Lookman to tap in the back of the net. What really, I think, killed you off with 10 minutes to go, and you didn't see you really come back. What will be the difference going into this weekend? I mean, obviously, we've got no defenders. Obviously, our fantastic partnership that beat Liverpool 1-0 the other week has now gone to the Africa Cup of Nations in Daniel Amati and Diddy, as well as Pepe Mendy. We've lost 3 players to the Africa Cup of Nations now. We have literally got Yannick Vestergaard as a central defender. There'll be no Johnny Evans. There's no Sion Chu. It looks like Ben Nelson, a young 19-year-old, is going to have to come in and play at the back, with probably Cassania and Thomas, and that will be our makeshift back lineup. Obviously, I have a feeling Danny Ward might get a game, the Welsh international goalkeeper at this point in the season. But coming into Saturday, what will your team be? And will there be changing? Because obviously, I know there's arguments saying Dennis was going to the African Cup of Nations, but they registered him too late, didn't they?
Yeah, so he's not going anymore. They sent the paperwork too late, and the Nigerians are furious now. If you look at any post from an official Watford account, whether it be Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, the comments is just filled with Nigerian fans saying that they hope we get relegated because we didn't let Dennis join. But they sent the paperwork too late, and Dennis had a conversation with Ranieri and ultimately decided to stay and help us stay up, which I think is brilliant. You know, Dennis has been known for his, attitude problems in the past, and you'd think getting a call up for AFCON, a new head coach at Nigeria. He didn't get on with the coach before, so you'd think a new start, he'd be buzzing to go, and then to have it taken away, you'd think this could be the start of him kicking off. But it sounds like it's quite the opposite. But I mean, this weekend, as boring as it might sound, I genuinely wouldn't be surprised if we put out a very, very second string side. I really wouldn't be fussed at all if we went out. Now, I love the FA Cup, and I hate teams that put out weak sides because it's a cup like your Man Cities, your Man U's, your Chelsea's. We got to the final in 18-19 season. We got absolutely spanked 6-0, but it was still great to get to a final. As I'm sure you guys, you did one better and went and won it. So um, it I never like seeing us crash out the FA Cup early doors, but just with everything that's going on at the moment, we've obviously had the COVID outbreak. Players are coming back. We've lost a couple of players to AFCON. Trooster Kong's gone. He's the Nigeria captain. I mean, we've still got CRL to luckily. We've brought in a new centre back today. Whether he plays and is fit in time for Saturday, I don't know. But I really, if come 2 o'clock and the team loses mainly under 23s and fringe players, for once I wouldn't grumble because, again, as cliche as this might sound, we've got bigger worries. Yes, it'd be nice to have a little bit of a run in the FA Cup, but we've got, after you guys, we've got Newcastle away, we've got Norwich at home, we've got Burnley away, and then we've got Crystal Palace at home, I think. So, 4 massive games, which we really need results in. So, as far as I'm aware, we can put out a second string side, and if as long as we just give it a go, then that's as much as we can hope for. I know it's not great hearing that from an opposition podcast, but it genuinely is the situation we're in at the moment. We have to prioritise the league. It would be stupid not to.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like you say, your league's your bread and butter this year. To stay up in the Premier League, as we all know now, if you get that one time at staying up, then you've got a great chance to build because you get that extra bit of money. And I always say now, the longer you stay in the Premier League, the better chance you have for staying it for a long, long term. You get that first 2-3 seasons out of the way, you then start to establish yourself. And the teams coming up, I always find it more and more difficult because they can't compete straight away financially, on the television front, the global brandness and everything like that. You just have that extra bit of money to find when you need it. There's a couple of players I want to talk about at the weekend. One played for us back in the day in a League One season, Tom Cleverley. He seems to be doing all right for you now. He started off very quiet. He had an up and down career. We'll play in different teams, but he seemed to come in and settle down. And from obviously the cycling GK videos, he seemed to be one of your interesting characters on the pitch, and always having to go at Ben Foster. But what's he been like since he's come to you?
Oh, he's brilliant. We had Clevs, I think, testing my memory a bit now, possibly 08-09 or 09-10 season. We had him on loan from Man United, and he was a young whippersnapper back then, and he was superb. He was, a breath of fresh air. Obviously, then went on to play a couple of first-team games for Man U, then Villa, Everton, etc. And then to get him back, we had him on loan to start with from Everton, then we bought him permanent. But last season he was brilliant. He's one of the senior pros in the squads, mid-30s, but his energy levels, you'd think he was a young 18-year-old, and he's just closing down. It's not something you'd expect from someone of his age. You hear the name Tom Cleverley, you think he's well travelled, he's coming to the end of his career, he's probably slowing down a bit, but let me tell you, that's far from the truth. We just love his work rate, and every time, the last season he was one of the first names on the team sheet, and he's just got back from an injury, funnily enough. So I think he come on in the end. I think he come on in with like 3 minutes to go against Tottenham on New Year's Day. So maybe he will start. I don't know, but he's absolutely superb. I absolutely love him because you just wouldn't expect him from someone of his age to be closing down, and his work rate, and you can tell how much he really loves playing for the club as well. So he's a real favourite of mine, Cleverley is. But I could possibly see him starting, maybe taking the captain's role, whether we choose to maybe rest Soco for the bigger games, I don't know. But yeah, he's certainly someone I could see starting on Saturday.
He's just mentioned one player I was going to ask about. Two players basically came in last summer. One has really hit the ground running and being an inspiration on the times. Sissoko, his work rate, we all know that was there. We all know he's a brawler and he's very quick on the ball at times and can run around for fun. How's he settled in? And the other player we're going to ask about is someone who's come in last summer and now seems to be finding the exit door before January, and that's Danny Rose. So we'll start with Soco and see what's going off with him, because he's another player for me that we all know at Tottenham. He was getting in their team every week. He came from Newcastle. He was flying for them. He got into Tottenham's team. He was playing most weeks for them, and now he's your captain. And he was a player a lot of teams probably thought, nah, not good enough, not going to be able to play a lot. And he keeps proving people wrong at this level.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, the fact that we signed him, there was no real whispers from our side. Obviously, we like to keep our ears to the ground with the podcasts and try and source any sort of transfer news we can get. And there really was no sort of inkling that Sissoko was going to sign right up until pretty much it was announced. I think the rumours started sprouting, and I think it was the same day that we actually signed him. So he come out of nowhere, and I thought that's a terrific signing. And without sort of with my not with my Watford tinted glasses on here, but I really think that is one of the most underrated signings of the sort of window for any club, along with Emmanuel Dennis, of course. But yeah, as you said, you've summed it up perfectly there. He's been a breath of fresh air. His work rate, we perhaps don't get to see his sort of pressing game as much. He's more a defensive midfielder, but with incomings, we could possibly see him pushed higher up the pitch, which I'd be delighted for. He loves a long range shot. He's not got one on target yet, I don't think, but one of them's bound to go in this season. So don't be surprised to see him in goal of the month contender from now to the end of the season, because one, he's bound to go in. But yeah, no, in all seriousness, he's brilliant and he's what we need. Real captain material. With Troy Deeney leaving, we needed someone coming in to fill that void. Obviously, you're never going to fill the void of sort of Troy, but you can try and go as close to it. And I think Sissoko's perfect. You know, we've got a few characters in that dressing room that could very easily get the captain's armband, and Sissoko for me is the one that deserves it.
And then obviously at the moment, a lot of rumours going around about your veteran at left back Danny Rose possibly going to another club. I mean, what's gone off there? You brought him in for the experience. He came from Tottenham, where he'd had a torrid time under Jose and under the last manager, and now he's having a torrid time with you. I mean, what's gone off? Because this blood's career was flying, and he's not now played for nearly 3 seasons properly. So something's not settling right with him at the moment.
No, well, look, I remember when he was, left back for England. I'd possibly go as far as saying at that time he was probably the best left back in the country, and he was really flying with his career. Obviously, it was well documented with the Amazon documentary, his struggles at Tottenham. It's also been well documented about his struggles with mental health, so that will play a big part in him as well. We also had him on loan years ago now, again, probably about 2009-10, we had him on loan. I can't remember where he was at the time, but he was brilliant back then. Other than scoring a tremendous own goal at Norwich, he was brilliant for us. But when he come in, I thought brilliant. Experience. If we can get himself fit, then who knows? We'd seen him for Newcastle on loan the season we went down, because Newcastle were one of the teams we had to play when Project Restart started, and it was behind closed doors, and he didn't have the best of games. But to be fair to the bloke, he was up against Ismail Assar, who was in frightening form at the time, so I'll let him off. But up until the Liverpool game this season, I would go as far as saying, I don't think I'd be the only Watford fan to say this, but he was probably one of our better performers. And I know that's probably scraping the barrel a bit, because we've not picked up as many results as we would have liked so far. But up until the Liverpool game, he was one of the ones that you would say, well, actually, I think Danny Rose played well. I went to Leeds away and we lost 1-0. That was Leeds' first win of the season. We were absolutely awful. We had no plan at all. Xisco Munoz, as far as we were aware, would have just picked the team and then said, right, good luck, without actually instructing on what to do. But Danny Rose was one of the few shining lights that actually looked like he give a damn. But Liverpool, he got rings around by Mo Salah again, coming up against another brilliant winger. And ever since then, whether it's messed with his confidence, I don't know, but it's just not worked out, and he's really struggled to nail down a sort of a spot in the starting 11. And we're obviously getting rid of him to bring in more players, which, as disappointed as I am for Danny, because I think he's a fantastic bloke from what I've seen, and he seems quite down to earth and everything. It's nice to see Watford acting that we've realised that he is deadwood now, which he is, because he's not been performing, and we're doing something about it. So previous years, we probably would have just stuck with him and perhaps tried to play him into form. But Ranieri or whatever, something's obviously happened behind the scenes, which they've said, right, look, Danny, we've given you the chance. It's not going to work. See you later. And that happens in football. So wish him all the best with his next move, wherever that may be. I wouldn't be surprised if he retires. I'll be brutally honest. He's done a few interviews before joining us, and after Tottenham, saying he's fell out of love with the game. And I wouldn't be surprised if he retires, full stop. But best of luck to him, whatever he does next. Not got a bad word to say about him as a person, but unfortunately, performances-wise, football's a ruthless business and a ruthless game, and he's not been good enough. Simple as.
Well, we'll come to that point in the show. it's time to get your prediction in for the weekend. What do you think the score's going to be? And guys, drop your comments in of your score predictions for the weekend, and we'll get them on screen. But before you go, what's your prediction, Mike, for the weekend of Leicester versus Watford in the FA Cup third round?
Well, we were talking before we went live, and I said that there's not been many times that I can remember where we've actually picked up a result at your place. Now, you mentioned when we beat you when Danny Webber scored. I think that was 2004. I could be wrong there. I was also at the one where Chalobah scored that absolute rocket the season that we met in the playoffs as well. I think that was the last time we actually won at your place. So it's not a happy hunting ground, to be honest. The King Power isn't. And purely because I think we'll put out a second string side. I am actually going to go with a comfortable Leicester 2-0 win. But it's going to be interesting. You said that obviously there you're probably going to be putting out a makeshift back four. I don't know what we'll do going forward. You know, Ashley Fletcher will probably play. I'd be very surprised to see Emmanuel Dennis start, but hey ho, who knows? If Emmanuel Dennis starts, then perhaps we'll score. But I think 2-0. I just think that we've got bigger problems in the form of, you know, the staying in the Premier League, and I really wouldn't have any grumbles with Ranieri if he was to put out a second string side. So yeah, it's very rare. I always try and stay upbeat as I can, but it's very rare I do this. But I'm going to go with a 2-0 Leicester win. Well,
Mike, thank you so much for coming on. Much appreciated. We will catch up probably before the return to Vicar Road of the Premier League in about March time, I think, in the back of my head. I think we've got you. So we'll catch up before then. But thank you so much for coming on today, mate. Much appreciated. Hope you enjoyed it.
Not a problem. Thank you very much for having me on. And other than playing us another couple of times, best of luck for the rest of the season.
You too, bud. Thanks, Mike.
Cheers, buddy. Thank you.
And there we go. Another away fan show. I say, remember, we're on every night this week. Remember, tomorrow night, join Reedy as we build up for the FA Cup. Massive game. We want to retain the trophy. Do you know, for that, let's just put the video on one more time. It was that magical day. And I was there. There was 6,500 fans there that day. But this is history. We want to win this back again. I'd love to see us win it again. There we go. Look, in all its glory, Casper Were's lifting that trophy. We need to go back in May and redo it, I think, with more fans in the ground this time. Just remember, as always, thank you to our sponsors, ADT Taxi, Hollogram, Tigers, Pizzeria, Pukka Pies, Car Leasing, Leicester Riders, the Fox's Arms, Arcadia. Can't forget that one, Camry. New Buddies, and our chosen charity, Hope Against Cancer. As always, thank you for joining us tonight, guys. Once again, remember, join Reed tomorrow night. Saturday watch along. As always, we'll have a watch, and we do try our best to do watch along. We know you guys enjoy it. And obviously, Sunday morning, get your cup of tea, get your bacon butter, enjoy Jamie for his famous aftermath show as we look back at the Watford game. Could it be a win? Could it be a loss? But we all decided Saturday. There's no replays. But thank you for tonight, and thanks for joining us. And we'll see you soon. And always keep it Leicester Fan TV.
Thanks for watching Leicester Fan TV. Thanks to our sponsors, ADT Taxis, Everards, Pukka Pies, Car Leasing, Leicester Riders, Hollogram, The Fox's Arms, Peter's Pizzeria, Hope Against Cancer, and Newby Co estate agents. Make sure to follow us on all of our social channels at Leicester Fan TV. Visit our website, leicesterfantv.com.